The girl was shocked to see a trail of wet handprints appear on the school wall, leading all the way to the boys' bathroom. But when she stepped inside, she found a water ghost perched on a boy's shoulders, his eyes bloodshot and breathing strained. So in a panic, she rushed in and slapped a talisman onto the water pipe, hoping to save him. The girl's name was Park Shinny, born into a family of shamans, known locally as the Celestial Fairy, blessed with spiritual power that ordinary people could not sense, able to see ghosts and monsters since childhood. And though she spent most of her days at home exercising evil for clients, she still had a normal side too, always climbing the school wall to sneak in when late, only dreaming of getting good grades. But every time an exam came, she'd scribble nonsense on the papers without knowing what she wrote. That night, a boy with glasses went to the bathroom during evening study hall, noticing only the flickering hallway lights, not the shocking handprints on the wall. And as he squatted there, ripples formed above his head. A water ghost dropped from the ceiling with its gaping mouth lunging at him. A drop of water falling onto his neck, making him jerk his head up and bolt back to class in terror, claiming he'd seen a ghost. But the classroom stayed silent, no one reacting, except Ginny, who knew better. After school, Shinhee sat in her family's shrine doing a final exorcism for a customer, always wearing a mask to hide her face, thinking tonight would be routine. One last job and she could rest. But the final customer came in walking backward. Shinhee had dreamt of this, a girl telling her that her fated other half would walk in backward, and in spiritual practice, anyone entering a shrine backward was marked by fate and would likely die within a month. But if he was her fated person, she would never let him die. If he walked backward, it meant the law of equivalent exchange had begun, and to save him would cost Jinhee her own life. The next day, a new transfer student arrived in class, and the troubled Jinhee looked up to find it was the same boy who had walked backward into her shrine. His name was Prison, and the thought of seeing him every day filled her with a secret thrill. That night, during study hall, the boy who had seen the ghost couldn't hold it and begged someone to go to the bathroom with him, but was turned down. So trembling, he forced himself to go alone, only to find disaster waiting. Thinking the ghost would drop from the ceiling again, he didn't expect it to appear right in front of him. At the same time as Jinhee was about to head home, she spotted a male ghost standing on an advertisement board while Prison was about to pass underneath, and without thinking, she dashed over. To save Prison, Shinhee traveled overnight to another town, seeking out the legendary Flower Immortal, whose talisman drawing skills even Shinhee's mother deeply respected. So Shinhee paid her and got 4 talismans. Early the next morning, the boy with glasses was found unconscious in the bathroom, and Jiho, who stood beside him, said nothing. He was the only one in school who knew Shinhee's true identity, but never really believed water ghosts existed. After a sleepless night, Shinhee returned to class exhausted, wanting to collapse onto Prison's shoulder, but was intercepted by Jiho. When she woke up again, the other students had all gone home, so she called Prison to the shrine, handing the talismans to him herself, but noticed he was drenched, making her suspect he might drown one day. She had planned to give the talismans for free, but Prison asked how much, thinking that misfortune spreads, and no one would help a doomed man unless they were a fraud. Though his words stung Shinhee's heart, she did not give up. Instead, she swapped her college application paper for a promise to save him. With only 3 weeks left, she began investigating the nearby reservoir, and one day saw Prison in the hallway. Wanting to hide from him, she suddenly spotted 3 wet handprints on the wall, recalling the boy's ghost sighting, and found Prison again. Using class time, Shinhee slipped into the boy's bathroom where the water ghost lunged at her with its mouth wide open. She tried to escape, but 3 boys came into smoke and Prison walked in too. The moment Prison stepped inside, the ghost suddenly changed, climbing onto his head. His eyes turned blood red, breathing so weak he was on the edge of death. Shinhee had no time to think. She slapped a talisman onto the pipe and stabbed fiercely at the ghost. For trespassing in the boys' bathroom and spraying water recklessly, Shinhee was punished by the teacher to clean for a week, and Prison got dragged into it too. She warned Shinhee to stay away from her, thinking repeated warnings would make her stop. But then came the strange barking. 4, 6. The eerie dog barks caught Shinhee's attention, and before she could reach the scene, a fire ghost had locked eyes on the cigarette butt in a boy's hand, planning to start a fire. The first snap of its fingers made the extinguished cigarette ignite again. The second snap made it drop onto cardboard, but before the fire ghost could do more, Shinhee suddenly appeared and stomped out the flame. The classmates who couldn't see ghosts thought Shinhee was provoking them, but since she couldn't tell them the truth, she lied, saying she was there to help clean up, which finally made them back off. With all her talismans used up on the water ghost, Shinhee had no plan for what came next, but her mother appeared, slamming down a stack of fresh talismans. Though she didn't want her daughter tangled in danger again, she knew Shinhee's stubbornness too well, yet Shinhee still couldn't speak the truth, so her classmates who couldn't see ghosts misunderstood, thinking she was picking fights, leaving Shinhee no choice but to lie again. The girl could only pretend she came to help them clean so they would leave her alone, and for her safety, she gently asked the Flower Immortal for more talismans, not knowing the Flower Immortal had already tampered with them. And Jinhee began trying to get close to Prison to slip the talismans to her. But Prison saw through her intent, yet didn't dare say anything, pretending to fall and taking the chance to steal Prison's phone, and they went outside, hiding the talismans inside the phone case without realizing Prison's grandmother was watching them from a distance. And after they hid them, the grandmother approached and later returned the phone to Prison after school, saying Shinhee and the others had helped find it, and Shinhee hoped to have have dinner at her house, and Prison, who had never met such an enthusiastic girl, didn't know Shinhei's other goal was to hide talismans in her house to protect her. So Shin-hee informed Ji-hee of her plan in advance to cover for her, and wearing a fresh change of clothes, Shin-hei arrived at Prison's house, ready to hide the talismans the moment she stepped in. And then she asked Prison if she could look around, and while Prison went to get water, Shin-hee quickly hid the talismans in every corner of the house. But when she tried to enter the gift room, Prison stopped her, and as Prison handed her the water, Shin-hee casually said, "How thoughtful." During dinner, Shin-hee mentioned she was adopted, and after dinner, Prison pulled her into a room, wanting to confirm if what she said was true, but they accidentally entered Prison's room, and Shin-hee, wanting to take the chance to hide a talisman in the top paper box, accidentally knocked it over, causing dozens of shooting championship medals to scatter across the floor, reminding them that Prison was once a national shooting champion who was rumored to have been expelled for setting fire in the dorm. And just then, Shin-hee's phone rang with her family, urging her to come home because customers were waiting for the ferry to arrive, and she hurried out of the room only to find Prison's grandmother chasing after her. And the next night, the grandmother personally cooked to thank Shin-hee, who was happily eating when Prison suddenly barged in with harsh words that instantly froze the warm atmosphere. And Shin-hei stood there stunned, not because of the words, but because she saw Prison walking in backward, her whole body engulfed in flames. And the next day, Prison went to the warehouse to get tools for cleaning. But as soon as she stepped in, the door slammed shut on its own, and Jinny realized she had forgotten her phone while the classmates in the distance watched in horror as the warehouse was swallowed by flames, and Shinhei quickly took out the talisman to exorcise the ghost, only to find curse words scribbled across it, and the fire ghost locked its gaze onto Prison. And at the critical moment, Shinny kicked down the door, scattering salt to drive out the blood ghost. But the fire ghost grew even wilder, and the Shinny smashed the window and used a fire extinguisher to temporarily suppress the fire ghost. But because Prison had a history of arson rumors, the teacher suspected she started the fire, and Shinny tried her best to defend her, but the teacher wouldn't listen, questioning why Prison wouldn't explain herself while looks. So, if you don't want to be pathetic, don't come near me. What does it matter if there's a fire? If they see you this way, then this is who you are. That night, Shin-hee sat alone in the courtyard thinking of her next move when Prison's grandmother knocked on the door, telling Shin-hei that Prison had been haunted by spirits since birth, and despite trying all kinds of shamans and methods over the years, nothing worked, which made Prison wary of others. But the grandmother believed Prison was still a kind child inside, begging Shin-hee with tears in her eyes to please hold on to Prison's hand even though she knew she was asking too much. And Shin-hee thought, "Grandma, you see me too lightly. Me? I can only do a good thing for you once. Doing one good thing will make me keep doing good things, and even if you change, your heart won't change, just like God doesn't abandon humans. And mothers don't abandon their children. I will continue to love you, and in the end, I will let you live." Without time to change clothes, Shinny walked into the shrine wearing her fairy robe, drawing the attention of everyone around, and when she saw Prison, she said, "What are you saying now? Where did you go? Why? I came to a place you can't come to. What are you saying now? Go away." As he casually glanced at the little boy brushing past him, suddenly, a bicycle came out of nowhere, and he said coldly, "How pitiful," just as a car suddenly hit the boy. And the woman was a witch who sacrificed herself to strengthen the evil spirit, cutting off her long hair, pulling out all 10 fingernails, even using her blood to cast blood transfusion spells, all to become the servant of the evil spirit, using talismans to show her willingness to fall into hell with the spirit. And as a giant ghost character appeared in the air, she completely lost her human form, turning into a skin-wearing ghost creature. That evening, the great shaman Dong Chuan was hired to go to a strange old house, where the employer said 3 people had mysteriously died and now no one dared approach it. And Dong Chuan brought his senior sister and disciples into the house, a cold, rotten smell hitting them as they entered, and he ordered everyone to turn off their lights while he held double blades, performing the godly dance of the strange gods, stabbing the main pillar repeatedly. But suddenly he stopped midway, questioning his senior sister if she sensed anything strange. And his senior sister opened her eerie eyes as if guided by something, crawling to a corner to dig out a porcelain jar, shouting, "Dong Chuan!" before suddenly smashing the jar, spilling out. At that moment, a murderous aura filled the air, and Dong Chuan shouted for everyone to retreat immediately as he stayed behind alone to shield his disciples from the fierce spirit, while his senior sister hurriedly grabbed the items from the jar. And with one blow, Dong Chuan lost all his strength to fight back, blood gushing from his ears as he stumbled outside, coughing up a mouthful of blood, realizing how terrifying the spirit was. So he quickly used his blood to write suppressing runes on the house to trap the spirit, sighing in relief that only 3 people had died there, because with the power of that spirit, even fierce ghosts would be obliterated. So he returned all the money to the employer. And while burning the remains of the porcelain jar, Dong Chuan discovered a Chinese knot earring that once belonged to the evil witch Lian Hua. So he followed the clues to a shop Lian Hua frequented and demanded to see her. But the clerk brushed him off, saying she wasn't there. Yet as soon as Dong Chuan left, Lian Hua appeared, and when the clerk asked why she was hiding, she said, "Today, you're not so pretty, but because you're pretty, I wanted to give you a surprise. Wouldn't it look beautiful if you wore it like this?" And just then, while Dong Chuan and his senior sister were analyzing the fierce spirit, Xing Ei suddenly arrived, saying, "Do you know how many times I've hit SOS? Have you hit too?" you? I hit too," begging her mother to save Prison, as she had already seen Prison as her first love. And after endless pleading, the senior sister handed her a demon-slaying secret spell, saying that if she could learn it, it wouldn't be hard to dissolve Prison's misfortune. But the book was all in Chinese. And just recognizing the 4 characters on the cover took Xingye half an hour, thinking it would take 10 years to read it all. So Jin-yi, not wanting Prison to suffer alone, used the excuse of forgetting something to visit again, planning to cook to comfort her. But as she entered the kitchen, she saw a suicide ghost standing there, her eyes widening in disbelief as she lifted Prison, because the appearance of a suicide ghost meant Prison was having thoughts of ending her life. So, in urgency, Shinny rushed home to beg her mother to teach her the secret spell. And feeling her sincerity, her mother explained that there was a type of talisman that used the human body as a vessel, and if it was infused into her body and she could find a way to bring warmth to Prison, it would not only keep the suicide ghost away, but also gradually remove her misfortune. But the prerequisite was that Prison must no longer have suicidal thoughts, that Shin-Yi's wish for her to live alone wasn't enough. And the next day, while Shin-Ae was at work, she lightly touched Prison's neck on the bus, and the suicide ghost stepped back, so she began finding ways to get closer to Prison, pretending to brush against her hand, patting her shoulder while greeting her, purposely rolling to her feet during gym class and holding her hand to apologize. And all these moments made Shin-Hee secretly happy, while slowly breaking down Prison's walls. And finally, Prison picked up her bow again, and with each arrow she shot, the suicide ghost stepped back further, making Shin-Hee believe victory was close, until a prince ghost suddenly appeared, one of the most troublesome spirits, inhuman, and only removable by sending it to the other shore. And to prevent Prison from being entangled by the prince ghost, Shinny followed Flower Immortal Bamboo online and wrote a wishing talisman, and the next morning, she quietly brought it to school, planning to hide it in a classmate's desk. But Prison suddenly appeared, dragging her to the rooftop to ask why she kept sticking to her, and Shin-Hee didn't answer, instead asking what it felt like when she was shooting arrows. And Prison thought for a moment and said it felt like she could conquer anything when she shot. And hearing this, Shinny gently patted her head and promised to protect Prison from now on. And in that moment, Prison's heart trembled, and Shinny was thrilled to see the suicide ghost had completely disappeared, excitedly reaching out for a high five. And to her surprise, Prison responded, while elsewhere, 2 internet influencers decided to explore a haunted house for a live stream to gain views. But just as they were about to enter, they encountered 2 witches who had just finished a ritual, and Dong Chuan stepped forward to warn them that the place was dangerous. But the influencers, seeing real witches, were thrilled and told their audience in the live stream, ignoring Dong Chuan's warning, that the evil spirits there were powerful and that once they entered, they wouldn't leave, thinking it was just fear-mongering. And when they refused to leave, Shin-Hee decisively drew her steel blade, and Dong Chuan thought that would be enough to scare them off. But to his surprise, the 2 returned to the haunted house, and the leader found a ring on the ground, and the moment he touched it, he froze as if under a spell, and the door slammed shut, his eyes turning red as he attacked his companion, screams piercing the night, the ending obvious. And the next morning, the police sealed off the area as the 2 influencers lay unconscious inside, their fate unknown. And Dong Chuan realized that if he didn't quickly exorcise the evil spirit in the house, it would grow stronger with each life it took. So while his senior sister went to seek stronger shamans for help, Dong Chuan had to begin the purification ritual immediately. So that night, Dong Chuan and his daughter Jin'er returned to the haunted house, throwing a white silk-wrapped sphere inside to gather the evil energy before lighting 2 candles and burning white paper at the entrance to start the cleansing. And as the flames flickered, the 2 drifted into memories, with Jin'er thinking about every moment she had shared with Prison, knowing that if she could hold on for 8 more days, Prison's misfortune would be completely lifted. While Dong Chuan remembered the cultivation days he once shared with Lian Hua, who was his closest companion before she fell into darkness and became a skin-wearing evil spirit. And when they turned back, they realized the ominous air had not cleared, showing the evil in the house was even stronger than they imagined. And as they were leaving, Prison suddenly arrived, having seen Shinner's voice appear in the influencer's live stream the previous night, making classmates suspect that the witch in the video was Shinner. And wanting to know the truth, Prison came personally. But Dong Chuan, seeing this, coldly rejected her to protect his daughter, thinking the matter was settled. But Jin'er did not expect what happened next would completely change how Prison saw her. And one morning, Lian Hua, carrying a black handbag, walked calmly into the haunted house, and that evening, Shinner, carrying 2 lanterns, also arrived as her mother had urgent matters and asked her to wait there. And at that moment, Lian Hua was chanting spells inside when she heard a noise, opening the door to see Shinner, who thought Lian Hua was a shaman her mother's senior sister had invited, and let down her guard completely, allowing Lian Hua to reach out and pull off her veil, saying she just wanted to see how beautiful she was. Shinner understood what Lian Hua meant. This was an invitation to dance together, and in front of the haunted house, the 2 of them began to dance eerily yet gracefully. And at that moment, Prison was hurrying down the dark path toward them, her mind replaying the misfortunes of her life, and Jinner's appearance once gave her a glimpse of hope to keep living, making her believe that Shinner would be the light in her life. But she never expected to see Shinner and Lian Hua looking at each other and smiling. And in that instant, all the goodwill and trust she had built towards Shinner collapsed completely, because the reason she hated shamans so much was because of Lian Hua, who was the first shaman she ever met in her life, someone someone who had blocked misfortune for her since childhood. Yet between Lianhua and her family, there seemed to be hidden grudges and unspoken hatred, and Lianhua might have been Prison's mother or someone else significant. And after her grandmother passed away, Lianhua had visited the funeral home, even bringing gifts and sprinkling salt on her face to ward off evil. But Prison's hatred toward Lianhua had already seeped deep into her bones, and now this hatred had begun to spread towards Sinner as well.